program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I'm Sarah Higdon. This is Transform to Freedom. Great show. Got a lot of good stuff coming up planned for you. Got everything kind of setting up. Really excited. So wanted to jump in, bring up something that we talked about last week. And everything that was going on. So, we talked about the Oklahoma teenager. I think we've been talking about this for a couple weeks now, who passed away, the non-binary teenager in Oklahoma, that is Nex Benedict, who passed away the day after getting into a fight at school. Remember, the leftist media blew this whole thing up. They blamed libs of TikTok for inspiring hate against queer and trans people, that led to bullying, and that Nex was then was attacked because of it, and then it came out later and we showed the full body cam footage where it turns out that Nex started the fight and didn't actually know these girls at all that assaulted her. And so, like we said, Nex had passed away. The next day, the police immediately came out and said that it wasn't related to the fight, or it wasn't related to trauma because of the fight. And so what kicked off from there was this week, it turns out that Nex had actually, Nex's death has been ruled a suicide. When you look at the conversation that was surrounding this death, this was fairly predictable. This is why I don't care what side of the issue you're actually on. Politicizing the death of anybody is wrong, and you should really take a step and look at, wait for all the facts to come out before you actually start pointing erroneous fingers at people who were not even involved in it at all. So they said that looking at the medical examiner's report, it was that the next day, the probable cause of death resulted from diphenhydramine and fluoxetine combined toxicity. I didn't know what those were. I think a lot of people, I don't. If you don't know, those two drugs, one was Benadryl. So the first one was an antihistamine that's in Benadryl, and the other one was Xanax, in the SSRI Xanax. And apparently, if you mix the two, I don't know how much you actually have to take, but that's what the toxic combination of those is what caused this to happen. In the statement from police, they said from the beginning of this investigation, police observed many indications that this death was the result of suicide. A statement from the police said, however, investigators did not wish to confirm that information without the final results being presented by the medical examiner's office. The Oklahoma medical examiner's report has now been made public. The department would like to take the moment to inform anybody anyone in crisis or contemplating suicide, the Oklahoma Mental Health Hotline, just call or text 988. So that's the statement there. So kind of going back again, what we're saying, and this is again, we talked about. I just mentioned not politicizing this, but when it came out that when Libs of TikTok pointed this out, when they basically broke the story, and described what happened. So the medical examiner just released the cause of death. The left used this tragedy to attack Libs of TikTok, and the media lied about this story for weeks, insisting that it was somehow Chaya was somehow responsible for Nex's death. This was on, when was this? This was on the 13th. So March 13th, you can see, as soon as it happened, I said, wow. I said, they will still say that the death was now still because of bullying, right? So they said that she was beaten to death because of bullying, and the hate that was caused. But now that it comes out that this death was a suicide, they were going to I predicted that they would then say that Nex was bullied so badly that that was the option that they took. And what would you know? It came, I mean, it was the next day, but on March 15th, the White House suggested that the suicide was a result of bullying for being trans. The White House put out an official statement about this incident. So this is what, let's just, where is it? All right, there it is. I can't hear it. Are you guys able to hear that? All right. I don't know if that's just me or if that's you. No, you can't hear it? What the hell? So we move forward and say, President Biden made a statement. But guess who President Biden didn't make a statement about? Laken Riley, until he was forced to and then pronounced her name wrong during the State of the Union, making it seem like, again, to place the blame on the only positive, I guess, of this really, right, was that nobody leaked the information to the press or to social media to try to cancel the 3 girls that she was in a fight with the day prior, to ruin their lives, and blame them and try to make it so that they should be charged with murder, because that would have been a whole different story. And but at the end of the day, I think that there's still going to be quite a bit of lawsuits happening here. But that's just the update from that story from last week. What we have is the top story The title story from this week, though, is we have the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation has now sought to determine that the term homosexual is now considered outdated, an outdated clinical term considered derogatory and offensive. So the clinical term for same-sex attraction is considered offensive. And so now they're also going to be known as same gender loving. Come on, y'all. Come on. This doesn't make any sense. And here's why. Right? I said, when we talk about postmodernism, this is what we mean. There is no such thing as absolute truths. And so this is queer theory. This is critical theory in and of itself. There's no such thing as absolute truths. And so gender in and of itself is pretty much meaningless. So I basically said queer theory is rooted in postmodernism. Gender has no definition. According to the left, you remove the term homosexual, which means same-sex attracted, the words describing sexuality are basically meaningless, which is amazing that the gay and lesbian alliance would erase what gay and lesbian actually mean, right? Gay and lesbian means same-sex attracted. I've been saying for a very long time that that the Q seeks to erase the LGB and the original T standing for transsexual, because those are based in absolutes. If you can make it so it's gender attraction, which is basically meaningless, then you say that there is no such thing as sexuality. If there's no such thing as absolute truth, then there's no such thing as sexuality. And so this is what they did. Remember, this is what they did with transsexuals back in like 2014, right? It used to, so the T used to stand for transsexual, meaning that you had gender dysphoria and you transitioned to appear and be perceived by society as the opposite sex. When they changed it to transgender, they said that it was basically that you could not, that you were not, that you didn't identify with your birth sex. Anything that didn't identify with your birth sex, which created the whole non-binary situation and everything like that. And so where are we at now? Everything, transsexual, and then forget, at the time, they have also said that the term transsexual, and if you actually look this up now, they say the term transsexual is an outdated and offensive term. And so by me and Blair and Buck and Marcus and all the other people that consider ourselves transsexuals, they say that's why they say that we are transphobic, because we don't subscribe to the situation where we don't subscribe to the transgender. So if trans means anything and gender is meaningless, so transgender is basically meaningless. Anybody can be trans if they say they want to. That is the tenets of queer theory. It's where the basis of queer theory lies. And so this is not, this is not anything that should surprise anybody, really, because this is erasing the language that we use. Now, if you ever notice, when I write pieces or I speak, and even when I'm on this show, I use terms very deliberately. because and if you didn't see, actually, about when I was on Timcast about a year ago on the after show, we talked about a lot of this stuff. Because I said that trans women are a subsection of men, because otherwise you would have no definitions, right? A man is an adult human male. A trans woman is an adult human male. So just based on basic knowledge, basic biology and everything like that. So if you don't do, like, you would have zero definitions if it wasn't defined as a subsection of man, right? So a man is an adult human male. So there's only one way you can define that. Because that's an absolute statement. So gender is not absolute, is basically what they're saying. If gender is not tied to sex, then gender is not absolute, which means it's basically meaningless. So if you subscribe to the definitions, I always use the term males anyways. So when I write, we always mention it's males. So a trans-identified male is a trans woman. For specific clarity and factness. So if you take away, so when we talked about this too, if you talk about a trans woman dating a man, that is in fact a homosexual relationship. But I also subscribe to the fact that I don't necessarily think it's apt to call it a gay relationship simply because a person is attracted to trans women and women. They simply like the female form, but it's not a completely straight relationship. This is something that Blair White's talked about in the past too. I think that there's some nuance there. It's not straight. It's more of its own sexuality. So this in and of itself is erasing. This is just the next step in queer theory to push forward. And James Lindsay actually responded as well to the Gays Against Groomers tweet, and said he's been calling this happening. He knew this was going to happen. And I mean, if you've seen James for quite a while, if you watched him on Rogan last week, James has been he's the expert in queer theory. Obviously, I pride myself in knowing quite a bit about what's going on in queer theory, but James really is the expert. And they did just put out a new book. Let me see if I can actually pull this up. James, he just put a new book out. Where is this? Wrong one. I'll shout this out because James let me. Here it is. We're going to shout James Lindsay's book out real quick. They put out this book. I think I might have talked about it before. The Queering of the American Child, with Logan Lansing and James Lindsay. Go check it out, because if you really want to see where all of this is heading and where it all comes from, this is great, because this takes all of the queer theorists, the Judith Butlers, and it even dives into John Money and Kinsey and all of the evils that they were involved in. All of that. This book goes down in there, and it talks about the cult that is queer theory. So shout out to that book. Go check it out. It's a good one, and it really explains what we see happening in this situation. Because the fact that, I mean, this is what, the second time in 2 weeks that we talked about GLAAD. Right before I went on break for the week, I had the week off. We talked about GLAAD not wanting to accept the study that came out that talked about how puberty blockers are not fully reversible is not fully reversible in that sense. So, yeah, kind of done with the. It's really interesting because, you know, these big organizations try to put everybody into they're trying to make everybody queer. That's their goal, which by definition is not the goal. That's not a goal, because by definition the term queer means weird. So everybody can't be queer. Queer means weird, which I saw somebody pointed out. I can't remember who it was that I saw pointed out. Actually said, so the term homosexual is now offensive, but the term queer is not. It used to be the opposite. It used to be one was the actual term that you refer to same-sex relationships. The other was something that was a derogatory slur that people would use about, you know, gay people. So now it's flipped. You got to make that one make sense. I don't get it. I don't get that. But moving on away from the LGBTQIA plus whatever stuff, let's talk about the TikTok ban. If you didn't see last week, the United States House of Representatives has passed a bill that would. It's been called a TikTok ban, but what it does is it would ban TikTok in the United States unless the app is sold to a U.S. company. So there's a lot of issues with this because they are using, obviously, the idea is that they're going to use, that it's a foreign adversary being able to, control and manipulate and collect our data and everything like that. A lot of people have pointed out really what this came down to is a lot of Republicans talking about, Israel. And it was that Hamas terrorists had used TikTok to show all their propaganda and everything like that, and was kind of manipulating the algorithms and stuff like that. And, they're saying that China was pushing a lot of that information to the forefront so that it was, like I said, propaganda for the youth to see, to try to get them on their side and lead to stuff here. So it was mostly based about the reason why. So Democrats had pushed this before and nobody was really getting behind this. Republicans were not behind this until Israel stuff. And so let's see. There's a lot of issues. Like I said, there's a lot of issues with this. Thomas Massey has been one of the few who Thomas Massey's been great. He's been out there. He's been standing up. Yes, John Perry, thank you for $2. Yes, Congress has been trying to ban TikTok since 2016, but it's mostly been the Democrats that have been pushing it. And this bill is not. It's a little bit. It's a Trojan horse bill, right? Because it's not just TikTok. It's not just saying TikTok needs to be. It's basically giving the president of the United States the ability to determine any website, servers, platforms, or anything like that that's owned by a foreign adversary, and the president of the United States gets to determine who that foreign adversary is. So, say TikTok was owned by France, right? The president could easily then determine that France is just a foreign adversary and then shut it down in the same way. The other thing is TikTok's not going away. Like, I think everybody knows that TikTok's not going to go away. One, I don't think this bill will pass. So it goes to the Senate, which, yes, is Democrat controlled. However, you need 60 votes in the Senate to pass. It's not a simple majority. You actually need 60. You actually need 60% of the votes to pass this. So I don't think that there's going to be enough support, because you had Dems and Republicans. It was a bipartisan bill, but it was also, I mean, you had 15 Republicans in the House say that they weren't voting for it. In the Senate, you have Rand Paul, who's been fighting quite a bit against this. John, TikTok, I'm getting to this because Donald Trump, he asked for a ban in 2020, but he came out this week and actually said that he doesn't want to ban TikTok because all it would do is give Mark Zuckerberg more influence. All the people that are on TikTok would be going to Facebook and Instagram, and Facebook and Instagram are not, they censor information that's politically biased to one side, which is clear. So I don't think this bill's going through. Yes, and here it is. Trump says Facebook is a true enemy of the people over election interference, urges restrictions on political spending. Let's see. Let's go to his whole comment on this. Okay. Where is it? TikTok is so Donald Trump said, TikTok is less of a danger to the U.S. than Meta, Facebook, which is a true enemy of the people. They spent $500 million against me and our great Republican Party. Lockboxes and all, and shouldn't never have been allowed to do that. TikTok didn't. Like crooked Joe Biden, Facebook is a great threat to democracy and will only get bigger and stronger if TikTok is taken out. Do them both? ? And restrict the money allowed to be spent in politics lockboxes by Meta Facebook. See, this is the problem, right? The big issue is that, one, let's talk about this. The only reason why people like Dan Crenshaw and a lot of these Republicans, these neocon conservative Republicans, want this to go through is so that they can control this app. Okay. They want to control your data. If it's in China's hands, the NSA can't control it. The NSA can't work with it like that, right? So if it's over there, then we don't, our CIA and NSA can't use it. Because that the CIA would love to get in there and push propaganda to the American youth and sway the election anyways, right? But if it's sold, which again, it's probably going to be sold to an American company. That's what's going to happen. But the bill is not even about TikTok in and of itself. It's the control that it gives the president, right? And I wrote an article last week about this, and it was really, what's really interesting, because what's going to happen if this starts to get sold, the old Blizzard video, Activision. So the old Activision video games CEO, he's looking at purchasing TikTok. He is looking to purchase TikTok. And now this is even a scarier thought, is that he's looking at purchasing TikTok and has reportedly reached out to Sam Altman, who, if you don't know, is the CEO of OpenAI, who Elon Musk is actually suing right now. So Elon Musk is actually, suing OpenAI right now. And could you think about OpenAI using TikTok, of all places, to train their AI system. You will have, I can't say this on YouTube. I can't say the R word on YouTube. I can say it on X. But you will have the stupidest AI program you've ever seen. And it will be based off of young Gen Z minds who don't. John says, so we're against surveillance or not? Why would we even want our data in China's hands? It's not about having our data in China's hands. See, this is the issue with it. We are against surveillance. We're against U.S. surveillance of our stuff. We can't control what China does. The only control that you have in the free market is to not use the platform. You can choose not to use the platform and not allow China to steal your data. Okay? So if you don't want China anywhere near your data, don't use the fucking platform. But and with that, I mean, I think, like I said, Thomas Massey laid it out very well, and I wish I had that clip pulled up. But I do want to point to this, and I'm not going to play the full video because I actually want y'all to go over to the Free the People, X account, Twitter account, and sign up. Go over there, click subscribe, and watch the full video. You can also go over there right now while you're on YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel too for all of our long form content, and you can see this video as well. But Matt Kibbe spoke with Tulsi Gabbard this weekend at the Liberty Forum in New Hampshire, and this is what she said about the TikTok ban. You gotta be kidding me. One second. It's not playing. So let me see. Stop sharing screen. Now present. Share screen. This one. Says audio connected. Oh, man. Okay. It looks like we're not going to have audio on anything tonight. That sucks. I have to figure out what's going on there. But so basically Tulsi said, and this is what they were talking about, they said, what's being pushed here is very similar to how they got the Patriot Act through. You know, the Patriot Act is what allows them to violate your Fourth Amendment rights to spy on you through the NSA and through all your phones and data and everything like that. And really they're saying it's for national security, and they always push this, that you're somehow a traitor if you don't want the NSA and, you know, the Patriot Act and all this stuff to go through so that they can spy on you. You're somehow, you know, like I said, a traitor somehow. And they will call you these names and they will make you seem like a bad person because you actually want your freedom, right? And so that's what they're doing with this TikTok bill. They're saying, why would you're you know, favoring a foreign adversary over the interests of the United States. And it's really, we just don't want the government. We don't want the Biden administration or even the president or even the next administration, if that's Donald Trump, to have this information. We don't want them to have this power to simply take all these acts, all this stuff away. We don't want to give the government any more power for them to use for any nefarious reasons that they want, because it won't just be TikTok. It will be other stuff. And there is a way just look, I don't know who all has invested into Elon Musk's X program, how many people that are foreign nationals have invested, but there is a way that the government could force a sale of TikTok now, or a sale of Twitter. Now, here's what they could have done. So with this bill goes through, Elon Musk is a citizen, but he's not a natural citizen. He actually he was an immigrant from South Africa to the United States. And so if he was not a citizen, I would think that they would be allowed to say that that the president could just determine that X is now owned by a foreign adversary because he's not a US citizen. That's a problem. How many people that are invested helped him raise the funds to purchase X are not US citizens? This could dive into a whole thing to where they try to remove Twitter and take Twitter from Elon Musk, who is the only person right now that's standing in the way in protecting our free speech on the internet right now, who values free speech on the internet right now. And if you watched his interview with Don Lemon, you would know this. Now John says, let me see. But my data by proxy through a phone nearby or with my info can get to China even if I don't use TikTok. There are no privacy protections in China. Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. Like we're gonna ban TikTok when you're using a phone that's made in China. Your Apple phone is made in China. So if we're banning TikTok, are we banning Apple phones from China too? Probably not. Probably not. Okay. But damn it. I wish my sound was working. Let me see. Don't do that. Sorry. I was trying to see if I could play this through my TV so that y'all could hear it. But obviously I'm going to get some, I'm just going to get an echo through the screen for that. So next story is, and really, if you thought you did not hate the mainstream media, or if you thought you hate the mainstream media, you probably don't hate them enough. So the big story this weekend, Donald Trump calls for a bloodbath if he doesn't win the next election, except it's a hoax. That's not what he said, but that's what the liberal progressive media said. That's what they pushed, right? So, and Elon Musk called them out, called everybody that's pushing the hoax as a NPC, a non-playable character, non-person character. Yeah. With a picture depicting so the picture actually was depicting, it said bloodbath, because when Donald Trump used the term bloodbath at a rally in Ohio, the media seized on this and took the clip out of context. So do I have this? So what he said, where is it? So if you watch the clip, Donald Trump was talking about, he said all the cars coming from China. If he was talking about the auto industry and how the auto manufacturers had, you know, basically started outsourcing all their production to cars to China, and he said that it would be if Joe Biden gets elected, then those jobs are not coming back. It would get worse. He said, if I'm not elected, it'll be a bloodbath. Basically saying that if he's not elected, then basically the entire auto industry in the US moves to China, and it's going to be bad for everybody here. Of course, the headlines from, you know, Politico, Media, The Independent, they basically just read, Trump says the country faces bloodbath if Biden wins in November, which is very misleading. This is a deleted tweet from NBC's Joe Scarborough. Said Donald Trump's America with the video. So Donald Trump's America with the video that was clipped to about 3 seconds. It's a very short video, clipped and said, Donald Trump's America and he's proud of it. Promised another bloodbath if he loses again. And Elon Musk responded and said January 6th was not a bloodbath by definition, and Trump was referring to losing jobs in the auto industry when he used that word. Your post is extremely misleading. Now, Scarborough deleted this post. Basically saying that, you know, basically deleting the post and going, okay, I don't want to be caught, you know, libeling or slandering former President Trump. So this is what Trump actually said in the speech. China is now building a couple massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico, and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States. If you're listening, President Z, those big monster car manufacturing plants you're building in Mexico right now, when you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell cars as now we're going to put 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those guys if I get elected. Basically saying that he will put 100% tariff, so you got to pay 100%. So basically, nobody's going to do business overseas for that reason. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. Basically, that. So he was about to. It seemed like he was about to say for the whole auto industry, right? But then he said it's going to be a bloodbath for the entire country because obviously Joe Biden's doing a horrible job in just about every area, is what he's saying. Far leftist Keith Olbermann, bless his heart, and you know what that means coming from a Southerner, demanded the FBI arrest Donald Trump for this, called it a terrorist threat. You can't make this shit up, folks. But that wasn't it, because we thought that, you know, Joe Scarborough, who had deleted the tweet, we thought that was it, right? We thought that he deleted the tweet, realized, you know, he was being misleading and just didn't want to do that. But turns out that's not the case, because then this morning they come out and they double down on their claims here. Seeking, NBC seizes on bloodbath hoax, suggests Trump seeks violence over upcoming election. So Joe Scarborough he's talking about a bloodbath for America. It's laid out in terms of it. And these idiots on Twitter, these idiots on cable news, these idiots on Sunday shows, let me see. See, I can't just play the clip. He then called out to the framing of the corporate media for taking Trump's comments out of context. President, he was talking only about the auto industry, and this is just one more. It's bullshit. Let me say that at 6:15 a.m., it's just bullshit. He knew what he was doing. We're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. He was talking about a bloodbath. Sometimes a bloodbath means a bloodbath, he further suggested. He further suggested that the comments were about violence, not economics in the country, because Trump said that the auto industry bloodbath would be the least of it. Then called everybody again that were talking about this and pointing out that he was talking about the industry. He said, these people may be stupid, but we're not. This shows you the contempt that these leftists have for anybody who appreciates the truth and is, moving away from the mainstream media, because this is just another example of the mainstream media creating their narrative and sticking to it and pushing forward. I said when this started to come out this weekend, I was talking about this is the Charlottesville hoax all over again. This is the supposed comments that Donald Trump made about the military. What he said, something where a anonymous report, who turns out was the person that was fired by the Trump administration, came out and said, after he was fired, said that Trump called soldiers suckers and losers. And everybody that was there discredited that. That was never a credible claim. And now they started running with it. Nikki Haley tried to run with it. That was a hoax. The Charlottesville hoax, where they claimed that Donald Trump basically said, they cut the clip to where it looked like Donald Trump just said there was fine people on both sides. Donald Trump said in the same breath, in the next sentence or the sentence before, he disavowed the violence of the Proud Boys. He disavowed white supremacists. He disavowed all this stuff, and yet they still push this hoax that he was saying that there was fine people on both sides. When you had Antifa, when Antifa and white supremacists are both there, they're both violent agitators. But then you have, what he was saying was, you have people that don't want these statues to come down, that were there peacefully protesting because they didn't want these statues to come down because of historic reasons, to not erase history, to not be, living in Orwell's 1984 and erasing history and changing the meaning of things. GLAAD. That's what the people on those were the fine people that he was talking about on the other side, not the Proud Boys, not the people that were engaging in violence, not the people that, harmed other people. And then on the other side, you have people that are just deeply offended because of our, the nation's history, and they don't want these statues that commemorate, Civil War, Confederate soldiers, Confederate generals. They don't think that those should be, memorialized and should be celebrated, or, we shouldn't have these monuments to them up. Those are where you can get that there was fine people on both sides. But both Antifa and the white supremacists that were there that day, that's not who Trump was talking about at that time. And you could see it in the clip. In that clip right there. Now, if you remember, we've talked about Michael Rappaport, the Trump-hating Michael Rappaport, who has now kind of said that he may vote for Donald Trump. Why? It was really the Charlottesville hoax perpetuated by the media that really opened his eyes to what was really going on and how the media was portraying stuff. compared to what actually happened, how the media was lying to you. So if you have leftists like Michael Rappaport with their eyes being open, with their eyes being open by stuff like that, by the media lying. Another one that was a hoax that never turned out was that they said it was in 2016. They said Donald Trump made fun of a special needs person in the audience, or a special needs person. That's not what Donald Trump was doing. When you look at the clip further, he was talking about a reporter who was not special needs at all, unless you want to call all reporters special needs, which when you talk about leftist reporters, maybe. I don't know. I just think these types of things, this is what's going to wake people up. If people aren't waking up by these types of hoaxes, by this type of stuff that's going on, they're never going to wake up. I say that, but I do think that they eventually will. Like, I mean, let's be clear. Like, eventually people see what's happening and they will eventually wake up. All right. Last story of the night. And now I was going to talk, if you have not seen, before we get into the last story, if you haven't seen the Elon Musk interview with Don Lemon, I think it was Benny Johnson, I believe I was just watching, had a really good breakdown, had multiple clips. The Post Millennial has a bunch of the clips on their site as well. We've done a lot of articles on there as well. So you can go check out those things and see what some of the key takeaways were for in that interview. But it was really interesting because talking about the leftist media, and you talk about, you know, how they lie and all this stuff, like, watch that interview. You can see Don Lemon. I mean, Elon Musk is giving basic viewpoints that should all be common sense. Don Lemon doesn't know how to react to Elon Musk giving these points because he's not able to trick him into saying something inflammatory or bigoted or whatnot. He's talking about DEI and he's saying and Elon Musk says, I just don't think we should lower standards, and we should look at everybody as equals. But we shouldn't, like, you know, we shouldn't lower the standard. We shouldn't make it easier to become a medical doctor because the overall the highest percentage of medical doctors is white. I don't think we should lower I don't think we should lower standards, because when you lower standards, it gets people killed. If honestly, this is the same thing we talked about in the military. It's like, if you can meet the standards of being an infantryman in the military, if you can meet the standards to go to qualify Ranger School, and you're a woman, then by all means you have the ability to do that. But do not lower the standards. And this is even higher because you're talking about the medical industry. People will die if they lower those standards, make it easier for everybody. They make it easier for everybody to get their medical degrees. It has nothing to do with race or anything like that. Like, if I, as a white person, am not qualified, if I go to medical school and I can't pass the exams, and then they decide that they're going to just lower the standards, and then I do pass the exams because it's a lower standard, I shouldn't be a doctor. You know, that's the whole point behind that. And so I would just go watch that, because you can just see how I don't think Don Lemon's out of touch. I don't think Don Lemon's a moron. I think he knew exactly what he was doing in that interview with his questioning. And then I honestly think that Don Lemon went into that interview. Actually, it was really interesting because he got fired from CNN, was going to launch this podcast on Twitter, asked for a whole bunch of ridiculous stuff. Probably didn't think that he was going to get that, and then would probably bash Elon for that. So then he has Elon on his podcast, which he knows Elon really doesn't do doesn't do a lot of media interviews. And Elon Musk said, we wouldn't even be doing this interview, but you're posting it on X, and you asked for it, so we're gonna do it. Elon Musk fired him because of this interview, because it was just a very far left take, and I can see why he did it. But the first place that Don Lemon went to was back to CNN to give the first interview. So the person that fires you is the first place you go back to bash Twitter, who you had a pretty good, I mean, you had a good deal. You had a good deal at Twitter. If you haven't seen like all the weird, like the stuff he was asking for, he asked for a Tesla truck, $5 million in advance up front, and then so much millions per year, and then asked for a stake to basically be able to have veto power in the company. That was like a no-go for a lot of people, right? Yeah. But last story of the night is actually, we're talking about Pornhub. So here's the thing. Pornhub disabled access to its site in Texas after Texas passed a law that requires any site that shows pornography on it, such as Pornhub, to age verify. So to have an age verification system so that minors can't get on the platform. So instead of giving an age verification system, Pornhub just pulled out. And yes, I use that term. The double entendre is purposeful, but they pulled out of Texas. And here's the thing. I mean, you all know I'm quite libertarian, like very libertarian. I think that what grown adults do with their bodies, what they consent to, should be up to them, and what they view should be up to them too. But grown adults, obviously, my whole mission in so much of this stuff is to protect minors and to stop the sexualization of minors. So I support Texas's law in this because it's there to protect minors. And anybody who thinks that age verification for pornography is wrong, I question who, like, where. I question you. I question why you would think that that's okay. It doesn't make sense to me. Because I think that this is one area where, like, OnlyFans, I've talked to people who do OnlyFans. I was on Candace Harbeck's podcast a few months ago, and we talked about this because, and I appreciate somebody like Candace, who is also out there trying to protect children, even though she creates adult content. Buck Angel's another one, creates adult content, is out here protecting children. But the concept, though, is OnlyFans is a pay-to-play site. And so in order to see adult content, you need to pay. Everything's behind a paywall, which forces the age limits to be 18 to view. So I don't think that, that may not be the case all the time, but I would say that that's it's a much better system than like the tube sites out there just throwing their stuff up there to where anybody can view. Now, basically what Texas did is the same thing that we've done with, Playboys and Penthouse and all those other magazines for, decades, right? One, they're behind a black, you can't even see the cover. It's behind a black, a black, and a black wrapper. And then, and then you have to show that you are 18 or over to purchase said material. So what's different about requiring it on the internet where kids have vast access to the internet? And I think, parents need to be more involved in their kids' lives and, what their kids are watching. But I have no issue with the state of Texas actually doing this. I think that, it should be a parent's responsibility to protect their children from this stuff and make sure that, if I had kids, my kids would not have a smartphone until they were probably, 18. Kids don't need smartphones. And then monitor their computer access, have computers in open areas. Like, people always ask me what we do, what we should do to protect our children when it comes to gender identity. It's the same thing with porn. Like, these are the same types of stuff that we need to watch. You need to know what's going on and what they're viewing. But this is, the fact that a site like Pornhub thinks that they're in the right here, like, they're not a good company. They've already been sued plenty of times because they do have child sexual abuse material on there. And they need to completely, they are not a good company. So Anne says, no, there is content not behind the paywall on OnlyFans, but that's a creator thing too. So this is the thing is, I believe that is creator discretion. And so, like, when I post a video on YouTube, I determine where it go. Like, I can put it behind a paywall on YouTube too. So I think that's at creator discretion. So I would say that those creators that are not putting stuff behind a paywall really need, it's not a good thing. And I support sites like Texas. But if your kids are on OnlyFans, you need to know that as well. But yeah, so basically the site melted down. One thing that the site said that, here's the thing, that obviously the law is not perfect, right? There needs to be, the site is saying that there needs to be a law that locks teenagers' devices, and it should be, they're not saying that, they're not necessarily saying that they want to not comply with this. They are saying, however, and I think this goes to your point, John, where you said Texas. The difference is Texas law requires Pornhub to keep data on users such as driver's license number and addresses. An in-person store does not keep this info. Yes and no. But so what they're saying is, they kind of like when you use Apple Pay, they're basically saying like the way they use Apple Pay. So Apple never actually has your information, but it verifies like all that. They would actually have to have your information here, but they're saying that there should be something like a device verification set up. I don't necessarily disagree that might be a better step, but at the same time, that's something that needs to be done at a device level. That needs to be a national bill, not a state bill. And the Congress and in the federal government's not taking anything like that up, it doesn't seem, and there's probably not really a will to take any of that up. So that's not what's going to happen. So Texas needs to, either way, the site's not going to be viewed if the systems like that aren't in place. So yeah, I mean the fact I agree with this with what I agree with what Texas is doing here. So yeah. But oh, thank you, James V, who says love from Alabama, dear Sarah. Thank you so much. I always appreciate just the kind words and always for your $5 super chats. Those are great. It's been the last couple weeks have been really good. We've been getting a lot of good viewership, a lot of people here each week. So I definitely appreciate everybody that's here. Please, if you haven't already, make sure you go and subscribe. Yeah, go subscribe to me across all social media. Well, first click that like and subscribe button. Follow me across all social media platforms, and I will see you next time.